Buenas tardes a todas y todos, a quienes nos acompañan presencialmente y quienes también lo hacen por las redes del doctorado en comunicación. Quiero presentarles a quien va a ser hoy día una exposición que espero después, ¿cierto?, genere un cierto diálogo para el cual vamos a tener ahí un apoyo también, ¿no? La presentación la va a realizar la doctora Flavia Arán, quien es académica del Departamento de Periodismo y Medios Digitales de la Universidad Babeș-Bolyai de Rumania. Nosotros tenemos un trabajo de colaboración con esta universidad, por lo menos del año 2015. Hemos venido haciendo intercambios de profesores, varias profesoras que han estado desde allá. Creo que la doctora Flavia Tarán debe ser la sexta, más o menos, académica que nos visita. Y también ha habido profesores que han viajado desde la UFRO, digamos, a la Babeș-Bolyai. Forma parte de un proyecto Erasmus Plus y a partir de eso es que se ha ido generando todo este intercambio, como les digo, al menos los registros que tengo desde el año 2015. La doctora Flavia Tarán va a presentar el tema Narrativas basadas en datos, explorando perspectivas interculturales en el periodismo de datos, que es una de las líneas también de trabajo de nuestro doctorado en comunicación, lo que tiene que ver específicamente con la comunicación y los medios, ¿no?, que es una de las 4 líneas que tenemos de desarrollo y de investigación. Ella va a hacer la presentación en inglés, ¿sí? Luego va a estar aquí también acompañándole el doctor Mario Álvarez, profesor de nuestro doctorado, para todo lo que signifique, digamos, aclaraciones o después traducir algunas o interpretar algunas de las preguntas que ustedes quieran hacer, que puedan formular también por el chat, y la respuesta respectiva de la doctora Tarán. Así es que muchas gracias y quedamos entonces atentos a tu presentación. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me here.
I'm going to sit next to you. If there is any side annotation to your presentation, I can help you. That's it.
I will have some questions. I will pose maybe the audience.
Yeah.
Okay. So, hello everyone. Okay. Thank you, Carlos, very much for the introduction. So my theme is, the title of my presentation is Data-Driven Narratives, so exploring cross-cultural perspectives in data journalism. And I waited.
No, I don't think it's necessary. It's just if you have any side annotation or any comment.
Okay. So first of all, I am going to introduce a bit myself and some of the work I've been doing. I was very curious to see how Romania and Chile actually do from a media habit standpoint, how similar or dissimilar we are. Then we're going to talk a bit about some data-driven problems that I usually see in journalism students, and of course some solutions, some tools, and maybe some tips and tricks that I picked up during the time. So first and foremost, I would be really curious to know what you know about Romania. Anything? Where it's on the map? Anyone? Apart from geography, anything that you might know, might have heard? Mircea Eliade, yeah, writer, philosopher, yes. Yeah. And Cioran, yes. Yeah, okay, philosophers, Romanian philosophers, yes. Anything else? That's all right. Of course, on the map we are there. We are the country that's shaped like a fish. We have direct borders with Ukraine, so that means that we have a war on our borders right now. We also border Hungary, Bulgaria, and the Republic of Moldova. And we have a rather rich cultural background. So the Romans were there, the Byzantines were there, the Ottomans were there, everyone crossed our path. So from a language standpoint, it's kind of interesting. We are a Romance language, but we also have some Turkish influences, some Slavic influences. It's a very weird mix of things, given that our direct neighbors are Slavs. And of course, maybe the Count Dracula legend might be familiar to some of you. And the fact that we were a former communist country until '89 under the rule of dictator Nicolae Ceausescu. There was a bloody revolution, and then we became a democratic state. So these are just a few fun facts. And of course, I did my homework. I read the entire Wikipedia page of Chile to be well prepared. And I am very curious, how do you think we stand as a small Eastern European country? So you have 19.6 million inhabitants in Chile. That's what the Wikipedia page actually says. And what do you think, Romania? Smaller, bigger?
I think smaller.
More? Smaller, yeah, smaller. Way smaller. As an area, of course, Chile is a very long country. As I said, we do speak Romanian, and yes, your highest point in the country, we are nowhere near that. But from a population standpoint, we're actually very similar, very close. But your country is 3 times as bigger as ours, and 3 times higher from the biggest point. And okay. So I am from Cluj-Napoca. This is in the middle of the country. It's in Transylvania. Transylvania is actually a real place in the world, not just the mythical place of legends and Count Dracula and medieval stuff. And I come from the Babeș-Bolyai University. This is a mixed language university. So Babeș is a Romanian name, and Bolyai is an Hungarian name. So we have this. It's a very mixed place in the world, Transylvania and Cluj-Napoca. Actually, I'm from the College of Political, Administrative, and Communication Sciences. So we teach advertising, communication, journalism, public health, administration, political science. And I'm from the Department of Journalism, Digital Media. And we actually teach journalism in 4 languages here. It's the only place in Romania where we teach journalism in 4 languages. So in Romanian, English, Hungarian, and German. And we offer the first digital media BA studies in the country. So this means we are preparing people for new opportunities on the job market, like content creators, video editors, website creators, stuff like this. And these are some of the things I teach there. So, of course, data journalism, the reason I am actually here today. Digital data analysis, which it kind of riffs on the data journalism. I also teach creating websites using HTML and CSS for digital media students, editorial design, communication on mobile devices, digital platforms, and so on. And from a research standpoint, I'm interested in virtual communities, microtrends. I did my PhD in internet memes and viral phenomena, and I'm also interested in European politics. So we have European elections this year in the European Union, so we are closely monitoring that and also doing some social listening. So, as I said, I was very interested to see how Romania and Chile actually, if they're similar or not from a media standpoint. So, we are actually really, really close when it comes to internet adoption. So, Romania is with orange and Chile is with green throughout these slides. So, 91.6% of the population actually has internet access. So, here we are very, very, very close. However, daily time spent using the internet, Chile is doing 8.5 hours per day, which is more than the worldwide median, and Romania is just like 6.5 hours. So you take this one. and time spent using internet and mobile phones, 4 hours. You also kind of take this one. Daily time spent watching television. Here we are rather close, and the thing that I found interesting about this is that we are actually over the worldwide median over here, so it's 4 hours, no, 3 hours for both our countries. Online gambling, and I put this here because I was a bit curious, because in Romania, even though it's like 12.4% of people do online gambling, it's an actual serious problem on the national agenda, and I was very curious if it's the same thing here. If there is a online gambling, yes, yes, and it's being talked about in the mass media or not?
Not so much, but it is an issue that politicians are taking some
Oh.
things to do. Yes, it is a problem right now.
So it is a problem, and you have like, okay, so you have online gambling, but also physical casinos where like,
yes,
yeah.
there is a casino in every region in Chile.
Oh wow.
Here in Temuco there is a casino. There was a change in the law
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, and nowadays there is a casino in every capital region in Chile. And 20 years ago that was not the case.
Oh wow, so it's an actual serious problem throughout the world. We also have this in Romania, and it's been talked about in the mass media a lot. They actually passed a law that no casinos are allowed in towns that have under 15,000 inhabitants, because it's such a problem for smaller cities that the only place where people can go to entertain themselves, it's at the local bar, and usually there are some slot machines and stuff like that. So it's really, really a big problem in Romania as well, online gambling and also physical gambling. So that's where I saw a building, a casino, I think, coming here. So okay. This I found really interesting. Checking health symptoms online. And in the entire world, Chile is on the first place. 38.7% of internet users check health symptoms online each week. Is this accurate? Do you feel that this is... I was really... I was looking through the statistics and I saw, okay, Chile is first in this, and I'm curious if you have any explanation for this.
If you think that there is a drugstore in almost every corner here in Chile,
I saw that, yes.
That's a characteristic of our culture, and that's related with this effect, and it's not really surprising for me.
I really noticed. We were strolling through the city center this morning, and it was like pharmacy, and then another pharmacy, and then another pharmacy, and then the corner another pharmacy.
Health system also, it's private and it's like expensive.
Oh, you have a private health system?
Yeah, it's not working good.
Okay, so this, I think...
So
Mm-hmm.
everyone wants to check online before having...
So they don't have to, yeah. Oh, wow. So I think maybe Colombia, Mexico, Brazil, I'm looking at the countries that are after Chile, and maybe that's the same thing also. Countries that don't have a public health system, actually. Okay, in Romania we do have a public health system. Maybe that's why we're only at 21%. However, we also have private, and you go to the public hospital, and then they just give you a referral to go to the same doctor, but at his private clinic, so that they can make a buck out of you. So this is how it works, kind of works for us. But we do have, let's say, a public health system on paper, let's say. Yeah. Okay, learning stuff. These are concerns about misuse of personal data, and you are up there. 46% of Chileans think that their data might be misused. We Romanians are really, really lax with these types of things. I don't know if this is something very that you do in your country, but if someone leaves his or her car somewhere parked, they just put their phone number in somewhere there's visible, so that if the car is if it's blocking you, you can just call the number and have the person come and take their car. So if you just stroll through any town in Romania, you can like pick up phone numbers from all of the cars, because for me, I'm very shocked that they're only at 9%, given that we just put our phone numbers everywhere. Okay, concerns about misinformation. Now we're getting maybe a bit closer to the subject of journalism. And you are like 61.4% of adults 18 plus think that have concern about misinformation. Do you feel this in yes, is it widespread? Yeah.
Actually, it was a big concern in the last, how do you say, the referendum?
Referendum.
Constitution.
Oh, okay.
So after the results of that referendum, it was a big discussion about if misinformation was the cause of the losing of the progressive perspective, I would say, in that referendum.
What was the referendum about?
About the new constitution. It was a new, we could say, kind of lefty constitution, kind of progressive constitution.
Okay.
And that option lost.
Mm-hmm.
So, the afterword was something like, this was a cause of the misinformation of the big media,
Mm-hmm.
the big enterprise behind the media, behind the digital media.
Oh, wow.
That was a big discussion about it.
Okay. Misinformation in Romania, 49.5%. However, I think this is going to change a bit, because this year, 2024, in Romania, we're going to have all of the election. So parliamentary, presidential, European, and local election, all of them are this year. And it's awful, it's intense, and there are a lot of concerns, given that we are very close to Ukraine and Russia, that there's going to be a lot of Russian interference. And there is already a lot of Russian interference in the coming election, but it's because all of the elections are this year, it's going to be, I don't even know what it's going to be, but it's, the predictions are very well, as I don't know how much you follow European politics, but throughout Europe there have been a big wave of nationalists winning election at every level. So the Netherlands, France, so yeah. And I think we're next. There are a lot of like newer nationalist, populist parties that are starting to get traction in Romania as well, and we are fearing for the worst this election cycle. But we are going to see. But misinformation already, we have very weird laws with propaganda. So the parties in Romania get money from the state to do propaganda in mass media, so that they don't need to have private stakeholders. But the sums are ridiculous, like millions of lei, so $1,000, $100,000, that are being pumped into the mass media. So the mass media is useless these days, because it's just party politics, and there's no information. You can't talk about misinformation if there is no information. So this is kind of tricky, and given how propaganda is being done before elections in Romania. Let's move forward. Daily time spent using social media. You are at 3 hours and 22 minutes. We are at 2 hours and 07 minutes. So you also get social media use. This is also yours. And of course, if you are using social media, you're also seeking out brands on social media. So this is percentage of people that actually follow brands on social media. You are at 58.7% of internet users follow and seek out brands. And social media as a source of news, 48.4%, and we are at 37.9%. And I think this is a tendency throughout the world. People don't actually take that much time looking at watching TV news, maybe a lot of younger people maybe. I was curious who will dominate here. We were looking at Chile, Romania, and worldwide use of digital platforms, and you get TikTok and Instagram, 42 hours and 55 minutes. this is the average number of hours per month spent. So you get TikTok and Instagram, and we get YouTube and Snapchat for some weird reason, and Facebook and X are somewhere else worldwide. But the numbers are, so this is the average number of hours. Is TikTok, do you feel that TikTok is a problem in your country? Yeah? We kind of, most of the politics done in Romania today is done on TikTok, and usually by the nationalist parties, and they have a real big pull towards young people, young voters, so people that are going to vote for the first time this year in all of the 4 rounds of elections, they take all of their information from TikTok. And all of the polling says that younger people are going to vote with nationalists because they are on TikTok. And they are the only faces and only voices they see on TikTok. And if election would be tomorrow, they would vote for the faces that they saw the most, because the other parties don't actually have anything to say to young people. So it's a bit frightening. I don't know if this is the case in your country, if politicians are really present on TikTok, maybe. Yeah? All the politicians, or, like I said, mostly, I don't know.
I think all politicians from all different spectrum, you have the internet, but they are doing different things in the same social media. Some of them are doing for fun, and this personalization of politics, telling their private things and so on, and others are flatly spreading fake news, and this is it. But the good thing with TikTok, if you are trying to spread your message, is that you can localize very well.
Yeah.
The
Micro
algorithm is very
communities.
precise,
Yes.
and you can create very easily an echo chamber community to spread your message.
Yeah, that's why TikTok is actually interesting, because it uses micro communities, micro tagging, actually going to the very, very niche people and finding them in order to spread their information. A lot of politicians are doing lives. They're engaging with young people. Young people find this very appealing. So that's how they choose their politicians. So we have this social media saturated landscape, and we are trying to talk where can we fit in data-driven storytelling, because we think that, okay, if we just have the numbers right, if we just have the data, if we just fight misinformation or whatever happens with data, everything should be right? And there are some, let's say, data-driven problems that I observed also teaching a course and a seminar on data journalism with second-year journalism and digital media students. And working with data is a skill, like any other skill, maybe like learning how to use a software. And of course, there are some problems that might start from there. And usually students come to the data journalism course that I teach is an elective course, an optional course, so they can choose if they want to do that or not. Usually, I don't know how things are here, but journalism students actually run for their lives when they have to do anything that has to do with Excel, math, numbers. They just like, no. They ran from this in high school. They took journalism as a faculty because they didn't want to do anything with numbers, and then they have the data journalism course, and some of them actually choose it, and they're surprised. But the thing is that it's kind of a myth that data is going to solve something, because data isn't that objective if we think about it. And everyone can interpret data and information in their own way. So this is just a myth that data can be very objective, and that data cannot lie. Data can lie as well as any type of information that you find on the internet. It can be faked, or usually it can be interpreted in a false way or in an incorrect way. And we say, well, it's easy. We just find the data and we extract the knowledge, and voila, we have data journalism. But of course, it's really, really complicated because there's a lot of, let's say, knowledge that you might have in order to interpret the data. So this is an exercise I usually do with my students at the beginning of the course. The fact that you kind of need knowledge and a bit of personal experience when you do data journalism. And I'm just going to this so that I can click on this one and skip. So this is an interesting graph. I do it, it's about Romania, and I will just make it a bit bigger. So this graph shows with the green line, it's the number of high school pupils enrolled in each year. And with the purple color, this is the number of people enrolled in higher education. And we follow it from 1992. So Romania came out of communism in 1989. So we kind of see how the number of pupils kind of follows this trend. Here it's lower because the general population of Romania declined after we were not in communism anymore, because abortion was finally legal, and then the population just declined because there were not, couples were not making so many children, but then we kind of came back over here. But what we see here is the number of people enrolling in faculty in higher education. And of course it goes up after we get out of communism, because people start having the money and it's easier to enroll in higher education. But then this happens. What is this? The number of of university students is actually bigger than the number of people going to high school. And I usually take my students and ask them, what do you think happened there? And there's a lot of guesswork, of course. They try to guess. I don't know, maybe a lot of people that did not drop out, that dropped out, did something, maybe something happened. And their guesses, all good guesses. Do you want to take a hit at guessing? What do you think happened that in 2007, there were almost 1 million people enrolled in higher education? And it's redonkulous, and I always check the data, and the data is correct. You can believe me on this one. There's no flaw in the data.
Older people decide to the faculty?
Yes, they decided, and they enrolled, but why?
Erasmus, international students.
Romania entered the European Union in 2006. Yeah. But it's not. But it's a good guess. Yes, but it's not. Something happened here. Around 2004, 2005-ish, government passed a law that said that if you have a higher education diploma, you get 10% bump at your salary. So a lot of people, my parents' age, enrolled in university. My parents did not. But a lot of people, like 30, 40, 50, enrolled in usually private universities. And there was a boom of very, very popular higher education private university that offered just, you put the money, you got the diploma, you got a 10% bump at your salary. And a lot of politicians did their studies then. They also did that master's and their doctoral thesis. So most of Romanian politicians have PhDs, given that they all got bumps. If you had your BA, you got a percentage, and for master's, and then for PhD. And this is all the people that did not do their higher education, their diploma, enrolled and got in all different fields. I remember I was in high school and all my colleagues' parents were in exam session. No one was cooking, no one was cleaning. All of the parents were just cramming for their exams because they were enrolled. They were first year, second year students, just trying to get an extra something in their salaries. And this is what we actually see here. And that things just dial down. And then we kind of see that the numbers kind of correlate from let's say 2014, we kind of see that the difference between number of people that are in high school and number of people that are in college, they are kind of like very well represented. But this was an anomaly that happened through some piece of legislation. And this is one of the things that we do in our course, knowing that we can look at the data, it's awesome, but there's a lot of things that you need to factor in. And of course, sometimes our knowledge can be limited, and that's fine. We can just try and find, I don't know, read old pieces of news, see if we can find some information there. Sometimes we just start with preconceptions, and this is something that I usually tackle with my student, the thing that biases are sometimes stronger than the data, and we have to fight with our biases. Maybe it's confirmation bias. We have a preconception about something or someone. We ignore everything, every type of contradictory evidence that we have there. Sometimes it might be the availability bias. We only find data to support one point of view, and we think, okay, that's the only point of view that people might have. Sometimes it might be anchoring data. We just use the first piece of information that we see, and we use that as an anchor. Or it can be overconfidence data. We think that, of course, we know everything about the subject. There's nothing more to know. So, of course, our inferences are correct. Or it can be hindsight bias, when we think that past events were really easy to predict, of course, when we look at them from the present to the past. And sometimes it might be a framing problem, given that we come from a communication background. Framing theory can sometimes explain how our biases work. And it's not the end of the world. Of course, we all have biases. Of course, we have preconception about the data we see, about stories we hear, about people we meet. But it's okay, we can fight them. We just have to be aware. We have to be aware that there are some shortcomings. And of course, we have to find them. And I have some ways to fight them, but also some, let's say, more practical ways of doing it. So maybe just to be aware that we have these biases and think that maybe we need to access some diverse perspectives, maybe talk to other people, meet other people, know them. When we do data-driven reporting, maybe do a bit of critical thinking. Even this is maybe not the best type of advice you can give someone, just think better. I think this is not a very, very good advice. Telling people you need critical thinking, that's not something that you can actually do. But working with my data journalism students, we kind of found some ways of doing a bit of critical thinking when we hit rough spots with our data. And these are maybe a bit practical. Just do a bit of data validation and make sure that everything you are working with is correct. Maybe do a bit of data visualization, but not maybe for you, but for your public, and just continue learning. And these are the solutions, things that I actually start doing with the journalism. So I was checking the time to make sure I'm not going to go over time. Okay. We do this instinct check. It's based on maybe, on Factfulness, the book from Hans Rosling 2018 book. And he actually has 10 or 15 instincts that we as humans have, and they kind of make us not understand maybe the whole story when we are working with data. Hans Rosling he died of cirrhosis in 2018 or 19. He didn't even see his book being published. He was a Swedish doctor. He did a lot of outreach in Africa, and he was at the table with a lot of important people from UNICEF, from the UN, from the central banks, and he saw that usually people have a very flawed view of life because we are a bit pessimistic and we are dominated by fear. That's what he says. And the whole book is just the, 10 or 11 instincts that we have and that make us crappy data journalists or something like this. The fact that usually we see people at just the ends of the spectrum, even though the majority is somewhere in the middle, and we usually tend to concentrate on the poorest or on the richest or on the extremes of the spectrum and rarely actually look at the majority of people that's somewhere in the middle. The fact that we are pessimistic, that we are usually see if things are not improving radically, we don't think that there is any improvement, but usually there is. But we tend to see the world in a negative perspective because this is kind of the news that we usually see. Bad news travels easily. We are maybe more inclined of looking at negative stuff. Maybe the fact that usually we think that if something follows a trend, the trend will just go on forever, but usually things get to a plateau usually. Sometimes we take decisions based on fear without assessing the risks. Sometimes we just look at numbers without comparing them to anything, and this is something that we usually see in mass media when someone says, like, just dropping a number. If you don't compare it with anything, it doesn't actually mean anything. The fact that we usually kind of are very inclined of thinking in stereotypes and putting people in groups, in categories, and that can also be maybe a bit not very useful sometimes. This is again about the fact that we kind of perceive slow progress as being stagnation. The fact that maybe we don't necessarily use very diverse viewpoints when we try and figure out stuff in our lives. The fact that we always try to find a scapegoat, someone that is to blame for something bad that happens. And sometimes when we are not very focused on seeing the long-term consequences of issues, we might think that we need to take some hasty solutions. Other things that we do is knowing the world. And yes, traveling the world is fun. Coming to Chile was an adventure, and it's really fun. But sometimes it's not possible to see the world. So these are the things that I actually do in the data journalism course. I don't know if you're familiar with GeoGuessr. We're going to play today a bit of GeoGuessr. And the other one, this is a project created by Hans Rosling, the guy with the Factfulness book. And it's a project called Dollar Street. And in the data journalism course, we kind of browse. These are families from the entire world. And you can see how much they earn per month. Oh, it's not working. Oh, one moment. Thank you. Yeah. Something is okay now. Yes. So this is Dollar Street, the project where you can browse and look in the houses of people from around the world. This is a family from Kenya that makes $47 per month, or from the Philippines, or from Ukraine. And you can just click on the families and browse through their houses, just so that you can see how people from around the world live. There are photos with, I don't know, their hands, so that you can see if they work with their hands, if they do physical labor or not. This one doesn't have a lot of images. You can see how a family from India that has a cumulative monthly pay of $30 live, how they brush their teeth, how their family lives and so on. It's not loading very well because there's a lot of images. But this is a really good starting place in the discussion about how people from around the world live. Just looking in their houses, seeing where they sleep, what they eat, and so on and so forth. I think it's just loading a bit slowly. But this, I think, is a very good resource for students to understand that we have a very unique perspective, but there are a lot of people that might have other types of perspectives. So we browse through this, and this is kind of fun. And the other thing that we do, I just muted because we are going to play GeoGuessr. I did a bit of GeoGuessr I will just use it here. And we're going to play in Chile, so that I will really, really be bad at this.
It's not on Dollar Street.
What's not on? Chile's not on Dollar Street. there are 5 families from Romania. That's the thing I know. Oh, I'm so sorry that Chile is not there. But now you can teach me things, and you might be surprised. As I said, I usually play with Romania with my students. So you are put somewhere in Chile randomly on Google Street View, and you have to pinpoint the exact location where you are. So this is what I hope the internet is going to load a bit better. Okay. And then we have to decide where in Chile this is and pinpoint it on the map. Oh, exactly. Okay. Santiago. It's not loading very well. I'm sorry for that. It's the internet. But you can like stroll a little through the streets and try and give a good guess of where you might be. Oh, this is not working at all. This is bad. This is Chile by night. But I will put Santiago because that's what I will just put a pin in Santiago, hoping that something will happen. At the outskirts of Santiago, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Oh, I wasn't that off, actually. I was just 60 kilometers off. I'm good. Yeah, I'm really good. You're good, you said Santiago. And this is something that we actually do. In most of the courses, we reserve 10 minutes to play GeoGuessr, just so that we can have a better grasp of how the majority of people in Romania live. I know Chile is a really, really big country. I know that. Okay. Okay. Oh, there's a llama there. Fancy car. A satellite dish. This could be anywhere, right? This is how we usually play for Romania. It could be any village in Romania ever. It's not loading very well. Is it in the south or in the north at least? Or in the middle? It's not in the south because Patagonia. It looks warm-ish. I don't know. Oh. This doesn't help at all, I think. I have no idea. My knowledge of Chile is limited. I'm sorry. Any good guesses? Where?
Maybe near Conception.
Okay.
Talca and Conception.
He did here,
The north, I guess.
like here somewhere.
Yes.
I'm just doing my best here. Oh, we were really far away. Oh. It was a guess, so yeah. So this is one of the tools we use to, I don't know, just stroll through the world and see how much we actually know. Sometimes it's fun with students because they say, oh, this is the city I live. This is like the street where I failed my driver's exam or stuff like that. So I play a lot. I will tell you, I play a lot internationally so that I kind of have a better grasp of the world we're living. But this might be fun as a resource, as a thing of doing, to know the world, even if you can't actually travel, just so that, I don't know, you have in check your misconceptions about the world, I think. Another tool that we can use so that we can, I don't know, make sure that we have a better understanding is just, if we don't know, we can ask for help. Every time we can ask for help. And a way we do this in the data storytelling course is just make a visualization, interactive visualization, where people can do the investigative part. So something like, there's a link over here. If Carlos will send you the presentation, there are links inside of the presentation. So this actually takes you to this profile, my profile on Tableau Public, but I won't use it here because the internet is not very good. I will use it from the application. So this is something that we worked on in the data journalism course about Olympians. So this is a data set of all the people that participated in the Olympic Games, in the modern Olympic Games, let's say, the summer and the winter, by female and male, by country, by sport, by event, and by the medals that they received. And let's investigate Chile. So everything filters out. So when you click on this, everything filters out. So let's say in all of the Olympic Games, what are you best at? Tennis. Athletics. Athletics, alpine skiing, cycling, football. Let's see gold. Where you got gold ever? Oh, tennis, you were right. Yes. Nicolas Alexandromas, what year was this? I don't have the year here. You have two awesome tennis players over here.
2004.
2004, okay. I should have put the year. That might have helped. Equestrianism, silver. You got silver in horse riding. And athletics, boxing, shooting, and tennis. And let's see, bronze, football, boxing, and tennis. Not so shabby. Okay, and we have here the athletes by weight and height. Maybe we are curious to see how a gold medalist from Chile in tennis actually look from a 80 kilograms and 182 centimeters in height, and 182 in height and 82 kilograms. Let's see, Romania. Where are you? There, the fish. Okay. We were good in gymnastics. Good. We were good using past tense over here. Gymnastics, both in male and female gymnastics. This was one of the places where we excelled. And also rowing in past years. So we kind of use these types of interactive dashboards and Tableau that you can embed in a WordPress site, so that we can, like, I don't know, maybe we don't know the entire story, but maybe people can dig in. Of course, this is Olympic stuff. However, there can be more investigative types of data sets that might help, I don't know, give people the opportunity of identifying different stories. So just knowing that we don't know everything might be a good starting point in fighting with our biases and our shortcomings when it comes to data journalism. We actually have a website where all the students put their finer data journalism projects, so that people, like every new generation can see what the previous generation did and maybe do it better. So all of them have a lot of Tableau Public types of dashboards in them, and they are publicly available, so that, I don't know, the public can actually peruse through them and see, I don't know, maybe find different stories than the ones that the students could tell from their data sets. Okay, where are we? We are over here. I hope you didn't saw that the presentation has 70 slides, because a lot of them are images and these types of slides. So thinking about data reporting and maybe some tools that we use in data reporting. As I said, journalism students are really scared of Excel and math, and run like hell when they have to do this. And I think that it's kind of a big problem, because data can actually help them tell better stories. And I think that their hatred of, I don't know how it's here, but do high school students have to take a computer competencies course? No, they don't do this?
No.
So in high school they don't?
Not compulsory.
It's not compulsory, okay. So their computer operating skills, they just pick up on their own? That's kind of how they do it. Okay. Most of them?
Yeah, high class private schools.
Oh.
They have this kind of training.
Okay, so are they kind of proficient or not? There's.
Small percentage.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if you're let alone with a computer, most probably you won't start learning Excel or doing, yeah, there might be better option of entertainment than this. In Romania, it's compulsory. When you take your final exam at the end of high school, you actually have a computer operating exam, and it's you either get a pass or not, but everyone passes. It's just, it's practically useless. And we do have compulsory computer operating courses, where, from what I know, students just play Counter-Strike or things like this. That's kind of the general, because usually it's a professor that just has to do the course because whatever, and they just like open the computers and do whatever you want. So if you are, I don't know, you're blessed with a good professor for this, maybe you have some very, very small Excel skills, and then you see Excel in a college course, maybe you're not that scared. However, for the most of them, usually they played 4 years of Counter-Strike and they're very proficient in that, not very proficient in Excel and Word and things like that. So even though we have it, it's not necessarily that it doesn't actually speak for better uses of computers. And also a thing that's happening in Romania is newer generations that never had computers, they just had iPads and then smartphones, and they're like using a laptop or a computer is something very, is this the same thing where you feel that people that don't know how to, they're not proficient in typing on a keyboard? We kind of see newer generations of that, and not knowing where to find stuff and files, and even though they are digital natives, they're not this type of digital natives, they're this type of digital natives, and that kind of shows when they have to use files and do maybe a bit more than just tapping on your phone. So it's always an uphill struggle to let them know that data journalism is not just math and Excel and cramming and doing a lot of technical stuff. It's maybe just trying to think a bit more analytical, trying to find a greater context, but it's still storytelling. So it still stems from people having curiosities and trying to answer their curiosities through a bit of data. And fetching data, and we do a bit more than just taking data from statistical organizations. We do something that we call social listening. So as we said, we collect our data from statistical database, from the Romanian statistical database that offers information. I think you have something similar in Chile with information about salaries, population, and stuff like that, healthcare and so on. Of course, we take data from different organizations, from different NGOs. But we also do this part of taking data from social media. We have some courses that teach students how to do API interrogation, collect data from YouTube, from Instagram, from TikTok, and so on, and also do a bit of web scraping, so collecting data from dynamic web pages in order to, I don't know, bring a bit more. So we do this type of digital data analysis as a separate course from the data journalism course, where we teach students how to do web scraping, how to do natural language processing, API integration, data cleanup, and data visualization. So this is good because it's good if they want to do research, or if they want to do any type of data analysis as a job, if they want to be better journalists. All of these things kind of help them in doing something like this. And of course, we do a bit of brushing up those good math skills. Usually you have some trigger warnings. Now you're going to see a fraction. Now we're going to use an Excel because people get easily started. But just a like very, very simple skill, like how to do an average, a medium, a mode, a percentage, a rate, and a per capita. And this is the extent of it. And this is, at the end of this course, they're just dead inside. But hopefully they might use this. And other things that we try, because this data part usually is more on the digital media students, they are more inclined of liking that. And then for the journalism students, we also say to just talk to people. Talking to people is also useful in data-driven journalism, because sometimes you might have good data and do a good analysis and you will have a really good article. However, if you have good data and your analysis is misled, if you don't know the entire story, like the thing that we saw with the number of high school students and number of college students, you're not doing actually anything. And of course, if the data is bad but your analysis is on point, that's also maybe not the best of combinations. And if bad data and bad analysis, I don't even want to get into that. But usually how we make sure that we get a good analysis is just talk to people, ask experts, maybe people from NGOs, professors, just talk to people, because usually things won't work if you're just you yourself sitting and trying to make sense of the data that you're looking at. And also the tendency is usually people do data-driven storytelling and it kind of looks like analysis. So we try and find stories actually choosing a narrative structure that might be useful for a different subject. So maybe it might be the rags to riches, and we try and explain this with data, maybe for some marginalized groups or marginalized people, for example, or maybe it's a Cinderella story where you have like ups and downs, or maybe the good old man in the hole, someone has like very good status, maybe something happens, it might be explained through data, or the really, really bad one with the man in the hole ×2. Or maybe one of the classical, like Icarus or Oedip or something like this. So apart from just scraping data, doing data visualizations, I think that just making sure that you have a character or maybe more characters or a group character, and making sure that the actual stories get told, I think that's very important. So now just a few tips and tricks at the end of the presentation. We are down to 10 slides, just so they know. From the 70, I told you, it's not going to be that long. I don't know if you do correlation analysis, we do. This is something new that we try and do with BA students, a bit of correlation analysis. So just, I have an example over here and I will use that. Because sometimes you might look at the data and it's not telling you anything. And maybe let me make this bigger. So this is one of the examples we actually do. If you put a lot of money in advertising, if that has a positive impact on your revenue, thinking that, for example, you are an Instagram page or something like that. And we try and look at the data with the students and see if you put more money in, if you get more money in revenue. And for this, we kind of use just the correlation. We try and correlate the money you invest in with the money that you get as a revenue, and you kind of get a value. And we try and interpret this value, given that in using correlation, you kind of get something between -1 and 1, and that tells you if there is a positive strong correlation. So if we get here 0.54, that actually means there's a moderate positive correlation between, where are you, here, money invested in ads and revenue. And we kind of do this just because I found that the students kind of need something that they can grasp at, something numerical, maybe something that they can actually understand from this standpoint. And we kind of do something like this and see if you put more money in, do you get more money in revenue? And for this data, it's kind of math, not necessarily if you put a lot of money, you don't necessarily get that big of a revenue back. But there is a sweet spot. So we try and do something like this in their toolkit, just so they know that correlation analysis actually exists and they can test it. Something else that we do is thinking of data visualizations not just as using Tableau or raw graphs or Excel or something like this. Some of them do a bit of out-of-the-box data visualization. Some of them draw their own data visualization. These are some examples I use in courses. One of them is a bit gross. This one with the peak month of when you get your flu virus, for the flu virus, this one. Yes, I said it's a bit gross. It shows you times month was peak season since 1982. So peak season of flu in the past 40 years was in February. So that means if you want to make sure that you are not going to get the flu, you should get vaccinated somewhere between October and November, because you kind of have to get your flu vaccine 3 months before. So things like this, and students kind of start drawing their own interpretations. As I said, this one is a bit gross. I had a grosser one that did not feature it here, so count yourself blessed. So I know this might not look as like a data visualization, but this is actually a data visualization of habits. This one is another data visualization of habits. And both of these are actually from a project. It's called Dear Data. So there are some postcards that are being sent from two people, one living in LA and one living in London. And they do this like very detailed explanations of the symbols and of the colors, and trying to create data visualizations that are a bit out of the box. So these are from a book that is called Dear Data by Stephanie Pozavec and Georgia Lupi. We also use this as a resource. And maybe something like this. As I said, data visualization does not necessarily need to be using graphs and pie charts and stuff like that. It can be maybe something that has a lasting impact on you. For example, how much plastic we eat in a year. And it's all using images of how much plastic a person can actually ingest. So every month we kind of ingest a small bowl of soup of plastic, and every 6 months is a big bowl. And every year we kind of eat a big heap plate of plastic, and in 10 years you're going to eat the equivalent of a one of these life buoys that weighs 2.5 kilograms. So this is also data visualization. It doesn't have to be a pie chart to be data visualization. And then there are some other examples of bushfires in Australia and of how people live in very small places. And with this is the presentation, and I do thank you for your cooperation and for your presence. So if you have any questions, if you want to talk about anything else.
Thank you. Dr. Taran, si hay alguna pregunta de la audiencia, ya sea la audiencia aquí presente o la audiencia por YouTube.
I would like to ask something. When I think in the media in Chile, I would say that people is mostly interested right now in their own stories than in data and data. So in Chile there is we say dato mata relato. It can be translated like the data kills storytelling.
Oh.
But that's not true at all. Actually, when I see the discussions in social media like X, Twitter, it seems like people is mostly interested in confirming their own points of view than in that data.
Yeah.
So, how useful it can be in our kind of society, highly polarized, to drive these kind of tools to journalists that at the end they are not using in their work, because people is not interested in data, is interested in storytelling, in the stories that confirm their bias. So I know it seems like kind of pessimistic what I'm saying, but I think it's our context right now.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing in Romania, and that's why I think that maybe data journalism should be mixed within the storytelling. So you can tell people's stories, their arcs and lives and what happens to a community, and use data to back up a bit, or maybe give a bit of context. Because, for example, sometimes if you see a story many times, you might think that it's a generalized problem. But if you don't back it up with data, try and back it up with data if the data exists, you might think that the problem is more common than it actually is. So I don't think that, I think that storytelling and telling people's stories is really important, and I think that's something that we do in Romania, and I think it's important in Chile as well. But maybe just use data as context, saying that, for example, if you're telling a story about a family that has, I don't know, that's living in very rough conditions, maybe offer the larger context of how many other families are living in those type of conditions. And I think using data to contextualize and generalize might actually help a bit of understanding the greater context, because we kind of see, this is something that we see in our mass media. I don't know if something that is common to you, things like showing a lot of poverty, showing the poverty just for the sake of showing the poverty, but never actually contextualizing it, never actually knowing how many people live like that. And people have the tendency of pushing out of under the rug, saying, oh, it's just this family or that one, without actually knowing how many families actually live in the same conditions. And I think that's where, for example, data can actually help, because people have the tendency to say, oh, this is an isolated case, maybe. They're just showing this for shock value or something like that. And I think that's where data might fit in. And I see the type of stories that don't get any views if there's just pie chart after pie chart after bar chart after. That is very alienating for the readers. That's why when doing this type of storytelling with the students from journalism, digital media, we try and also think about, it's still a story, we still need characters, we still need data visualization, but maybe not all bar charts and pie charts, maybe thinking of things that might stick better with people. I know the public does not want to see a lot of numbers. However, I think that journalists need the skills so that they can translate the averages, the medians, the per capitas, the bar charts. I think journalists need the skills more in order to do better storytelling. I hope this kind of answered. I'm not sure, I feel like I just...
Do you consider the importance of the tool to the journalism students?
Mm-hmm.
My view is more about the audience.
Yeah.
When I see people reading the data, they're going to say it doesn't matter because you're a communist. If you want to end the poverty, you're a communist, or in the other side, if you want to end the poverty with the enterprise, you're a capitalist. So
Yeah.
my point of view or my reflection is more about the audience than the journalist work. But in fact, they are related, because more and more we are seeing a poor journalist work in media, because it's more important the storytelling than the data.
Yeah.
So it is a problem. But I understand your...
Yeah, I think journalists should be able to translate. So they need first to understand the data, do the operations, try and figure it out, and then find a way to translate it and use a bit of storytelling in order to, I don't know, make it a bit palatable for the public and make it useful for the public. Because as I said, sometimes the public don't know what to do with just a lot of spreadsheets and numbers, and if you just give them to, maybe as I said, journalists as interpreters, as translators of data. Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Más preguntas.
You said you were concerned about Russian propaganda
Mhm.
Ain't you concerned with EU, USA propaganda?
Oh, there's a lot of propaganda from all places. I'm looking in Romania. There are a lot of more.
Can you imagine it? It's important for
Yeah,
the
it come.
geopolitical moment,
It's
Romania position in the
there's propaganda from all places, and we are very. I mean, like I think like everywhere in the world, the EU, especially now with NATO being Romania being part of NATO and being at the border with Ukraine in a war, there is a lot of US covert propaganda. There are a lot of websites that have a very US centered, let's say, approach message, and it comes from all places. There's the US part, there's the Russian part, there's everyone is just pulling from all places because it's a lot of stake. The geopolitical location, the time and place, and as I said, all of the elections, everyone is trying to, get their hands on something. So yeah, it's from all places, not just the Russians.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But it was a piece of news that circulated last week, I think, that they uncovered a big network of Russian operating websites and Reddit users and things like this. But yeah, usually they just uncover the Russians. It's very interesting, never the Americans or someone else.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good propaganda.
Yeah, that's the marks of
Yes.
very good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice presentation.
Thank you.
No hay preguntas desde el público virtual. No hay questions from online.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
for your visit to coming
Thank you.
over, and thank you for such an illustrative way of speaking this, presenting this quite usually dry issue. It's data, journalism. It's quite difficult. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Bye.